Meet the DJI FPV. Yep, that's what I'm going to talk about now, and I'm going to talk about it as quickly as I reasonably can because I just talked into this camera so long the camera got bored with me and turned itself off. So instead, let's sort of break the rules of YouTube a little bit and skip straight into what I think of it. What I'm meant to do is sort of tease you, I think, for a little bit and talk a bit, and I could tell you about the fact that the video isn't ready or wasn't ready on time first time out because I recorded myself at 1/3 of a frame per second, and that ended up with me being very jerky, and then I didn't have enough time to get the video up. Anyway, I like this a lot more than I thought I would, and that's because in the course of a couple of days flying it, I've managed to work out who it's for, and who it's for is probably me, and that's possibly a little bit embarrassing because I think some people might think of this as a toy, but once I've seen the price, which is about the same price as a MacBook Pro, you know, it's definitely not a toy, is it? Well, unless you happen to come from a better off family than me. It is a drone with all the normal fixtures and features and collision sensors at the front, forward facing, downward facing, distance sensor for the ground, LED. It has a gimbal on the front, although this is actually a user replaceable single axis gimbal with a very long range. And inside GPS, etc, etc, so it can do auto return and all of the stuff that you'd sort of expect if you've grown up flying DJI gimbals, or you've spent some of the time during lockdown while your hair grows flying DJI drones, or eating, as I mostly have, because let's be fair, food, you know, it's delicious. And funnily enough, even healthy. I'm not going to get in there. So, what is a bit weird, I guess, is that it sits like this. It's a battery which clicks in and out with there's clips there, but this battery is not in. This drone will not power up because you have to also remember to push that in, which is a really tough connector, which is really good because you know it's not going to come out in a sharp turn. Then it's a standard DJI intelligent battery, 6S, 22 volts, theoretically 20 minutes, rather less. Sorry, couldn't resist powering it up, makes a really cool noise. So then you'd rest it on the ground. Well, as soon as you rest it on the ground, these front legs, you can choose the colour of these lights, or you can have them cycle if you like, by the way, means that it sits at, I don't know, it feels a bit strange, doesn't it? But this is the hovering, you know, this is the takeoff, and then once you get good, you'll be flying fast, so the fuselage will sort of feel at the right angle because the air is blasting back. But bear in mind that at least at first you're going to be doing a bit of hovering in the air, looking a bit like this. So there you go. Also bear in mind that while you're hovering in the air looking a bit like this, and if your gimbal's looking forward or down a bit, this is not ideal for photography because the props are in the shot. It's a 150-degree field of view. Only if you choose to compensate, which you can in the menus and shrink it slightly. It will deal with the flicker, and the HD FPV is absolutely stunning video, but at its widest settings these do appear in shot. But once you're going quick, that's nothing to worry about because it's out of the shot. So if you're going to start working as maybe some sort of professional taking video which is going to be used to show the first person view of a superhero in a movie, then this might be at up to 80 miles an hour, this might be a sensible choice. But it's going to be specialist for photographers and that kind of thing. It's going to be better purposed for having fun, and in that sense it's quite nice to have a drone that isn't going to crash, especially given the price. So that's where the controller comes in. I'm going to have a separate video about this later, so go on, please subscribe. The controller that comes in the box, you'll note no phone mounts or anything like that. This flicks up. I've already screwed in these beautifully engineered metal control sticks, and here it might be not a great sign for the engineering that there are two little stickers that come here on the box, so where this closes because it clicks against the thing, but otherwise you've got an emergency brake button which will cause it, in whichever mode you're in, to just hover using GPS, which is a really smart idea. Let's be fair, we've all probably wanted that. You start off and in traditional DJI style in N normalish mode, move up S, sort of continuous turn sport mode, and then M, which by default was actually set to S mode as well, but once I'd popped into the menus, this is where you enable traditional manual with adjustable rates, PIDs, and full custom. This is where you'll turn it into as close to a traditional racing acro drone as you can, and I think, to be honest, it's pretty much there. The only thing that's different about it is that there are fewer changeable parts, although you can replace the outside hull if you want. And in fact, you can replace other parts as well. That's quite a nice thought. Obviously, I don't know how much all the separate parts cost yet, but it's good to know that you can replace parts. It's also nice to see that it's built in a way where the front props are going to take most of any serious collision, because they're a little bit more replaceable. Anyway, if you've never flown FPV and you've always been interested and your FPV friends have directed you to it, or if you fly FPV and your friends keep asking but they don't want to build anything, this is a brilliant idea, because this is the level switch. This is like starting in easy mode on a normal game, on a video game. A normal is still fast and impressive and helps you learn the levels and that kind of, get used to the idea of flying with goggles on your head. And then once you put S, then you're going to burn through those batteries a good bit faster. It's like when you start hitting the accelerator fast on an EV, you'll notice that you don't get quite the same range. And then everything else, well, you're probably already an expert then, so we don't really need to go into that sort of territory. N feels good. It feels faster and more exciting than the equivalent in a Mavic Mini or the Mini 2 or similar DJI drones. S feels very impressive, and you can choose level of tilt. You've got electronic sideways stabilization. The electronic stabilization is impressive, and it's all optional, and it's all reasonably easy to use in the menus. So quick look at the goggles. Powered by another classic DJI battery. There's a fan in so I'm not going to power them up. You have to put this in your back pocket, really, or on your right pocket or something. Pocket on the same side, because that plugs in to the power socket there and then dangles. There isn't actually anywhere to put this yet in the strap, but the strap deals with my massive hair head, which is obviously full of throbbing brains. You've got your control joystick, which goes up and down the menus. They're, as I said, reasonably well laid out. There's a back button as well. There are a few questionable elements. In general, the menus are very nicely designed, and it have the right amount of options. You're not going too far because you're not going into the sort of super depth, but if you want, you can get in there and manually change the camera settings, and you can turn on and off the various sort of electronic stabilizations or the single axis. You know, you can make choices. You can choose the speed at which the actual mechanical axis works. My only slight bugbear, well, two really. Firstly, I was slightly annoyed that I needed to get A2 high-speed microSD cards, both for the goggles. I don't mind having. It's obviously good that it records in the goggles and in the aircraft. I was just upset that it couldn't manage to record onto what I was, sold as being fast a while ago. But that's by the by. Secondly, it's quite a shame that the back button for the menus and the record button feel exactly the same when you're not looking at them. Anyway, otherwise, slightly aggressive styling. I don't know. Ultimately, though, as I said, I think this is a drone that I didn't expect to like, because I'm not that much of an FPV guy. I actually really love the photography drones and that kind of thing, and that's why I've liked DJI. It's never bothered me through almost 10 years of other people going, oh, they're going to do FPV, they're going to do FPV. But the way they've done FPV really does appeal to me. As I was saying, the problem, or the question right from the start, even before the deadline ran out, while I was trying to review it and write about it, was who is it for? Because if you're into FPV, you're probably into the building, the electronics, and that kind of thing. And I think the answer I came up with is it's definitely for me. I really enjoyed it. I was enjoying myself. It's for anyone who can afford it, who asked you about FPV but does not feel like getting interested in electronics, and it's for anyone who has the space. Okay, the space is going to be the limiting factor, because this is probably not something you should be flying over towns and that kind of thing. You are not able to take advantage of being under 250 grams, because it's not, significantly not, and it's very fast. So this is a specialist aircraft, but it's a potentially quite big market, and that's before we find out whether DJI have managed to sell it into a racing league or something like that. Imagine making everyone in a particular race use that machine. It's certainly fast enough. You can show up. You've got broadcast in the menu options. You can pop down and choose a different color each from your menus, and you can go out and go for a race. That would be pretty cool. Whether I'd get one of these if I really was an FPV enthusiast, I'd probably already have good FPV gear. But for me, definitely. Maybe I'm just not real enough. Anyway, thanks very much for watching. As I said, do please subscribe, because all the things people usually say, but mostly because I am actually going to put one of these about this up separately, and I hope you enjoyed the very brief clips I've overlaid, which give you an idea of the sharpness of turns we can achieve at different modes. I enjoyed myself a lot.